Hi everyone, I'm Ginny Washburn, founder of iMoveU, and welcome to another set in the series Take 10. This practice is called Happy Hips, and it's all about stretching out those muscles in and around your hips. There are over 20 muscles that cross over your hips, so there's a lot of different exercises and poses and yoga that you can do to stretch all of those different muscles. Flexible hips are incredibly important for a number of different reasons. When your hips are tight, you have a tendency to overuse the spine, and it creates a lot of low back pressure and sometimes low back pain. Our hips, especially in the yoga tradition, are often known to carry a lot of pent up and negative emotions and thoughts and feelings. So the more that you can stretch and release that tension and let it go, the happier you're going to feel overall. If you've ever sat through maybe a yin yoga class or held pigeon pose or frog pose for any amount of time, you might notice some negative feelings and thoughts just kind of bubbling up to the surface out of nowhere. And the more that you can just breathe through it and let it go, the less pent up negative emotion you'll feel. So let's go ahead and get started. Starting in Baddha Konasana. So bring the soles of your feet together out in front of you, and you can bring them in as close as you want, or you can keep them out a little bit further. It doesn't really matter how close or far away they are from you, but bring the soles of your feet together and then start to hold on to your feet and start to press down using your elbows, pressing your knees closer towards the earth. Pull in your abs, lift your chest, and you can either just hold here. If you're feeling a nice stretch through your hips already, you can hold here, or if you want more of a challenge, you can start to walk yourself forward. I like to hold the tops of my feet with my hands and really use that to help pull me even closer towards the earth. Lower your gaze, just take a few deep breaths as we warm up the hips. Slowly come back up and moving into tortoise pose or Karmasana. So with this pose, it's fairly similar, but you're just going to press your feet further away from you, and then you're going to take your hands and put them underneath your legs. Now they can just go, forearms can come to the floor as you bend forward, or you can turn your palms to face your feet and clasp your feet, continuing to fold forward. You're going to feel a really intense stretch through your hips, the backs of your hips, as you fold forward. And just breathe into it. Allow gravity to do its work as it pulls you closer, and you continue to feel a nice stretch. Now throughout the practice today, we'll be doing a lot of stretching in the hips. You should never feel any pain. So if you feel pain, just come right out of it and try easing back into it slowly. It's okay to feel that intense stretch, and you want to try to just breathe into it and let go of any tension. Sometimes when we feel a really deep stretch, we tend to tense up and tighten up, but it's really all about using your breath to let go and allow those muscles to stretch out because they really need it. Come back up and turn to face the front of your mat and lay back on your mat for reclining pigeon. Take your right ankle, cross it over your left thigh, and then bring your left leg up off the mat. Take hold behind your left thigh and pull it in towards you. You should feel a nice stretch through your right hip flexor. I like to take my elbow and kind of place it up against my right thigh. That helps to press it back as I'm pulling it forward, feeling even a deeper stretch. Flexing both of your feet. Find a spot on the ceiling to focus on. In yoga, that's called a drishti, a point of focus, looking at something that does not move. It's incredibly important for balancing poses, which we're going to try a couple of those with some nice hip openers in just a few minutes. And release, switch sides, crossing your left ankle over your right thigh, taking hold behind the right thigh. Again, you can use the left elbow this time to kind of press into your right leg as you pull it down closer towards you, flexing through your feet, finding a focal point, or maybe even closing your eyes and really just focusing on your breath here. in reclining pigeon. And slowly release. From here, we'll do a supine twist or lying down twist. So place your arms out to the side, palms facing the floor. Cross your right thigh over your left. If you can, wrap your foot around your ankle. And then drop your knees over towards your right. Look over towards your left. See if you can press that left shoulder down onto the floor. Feel a really nice release through your spine. And also, with your legs intertwined, you're going to feel a stretch through your hips as well. Just breathe into it. Breathing into those intercostal muscles in between your rib cages. One more breath here. Bring your legs back up to center. Uncross, crossing your left thigh over your right this time, dropping your legs over towards your left. Turn your gaze towards the right. Dropping your right shoulder towards the floor. Again, breathing deeply through your right side body as you feel a nice stretch through your spine. And slowly come back up to center. Release. Take hold of your knees and start to rock back and forth, up and down. And then rock all the way up to a seated position. Bring your legs back behind you, toes pointing or touching each other, knees wide, child's pose. Extending your arms out in front of you. Sink back into your hips, maybe shimmy them around. Forehead on the mat for 2 quick breaths here. And then come up into a tabletop position. Step your feet back into plank pose. Now I have to squeeze plank into almost hopefully every single video that you'll see from me. It's one of my absolute favorite poses. So let's just hold here for one more breath. Slowly lower down chaturanga. And then come all the way down to your mat. Tuck your toes under so the tops of your feet are on the mat. Place your hands directly underneath your shoulders. Lift up, cobra. Chin parallel with the earth. Lower back down. This time you can lift back up into cobra or all the way into upward facing dog. Then tuck your toes and press yourself back into downward facing dog. Take a few cleansing breaths here, pressing your chest towards your top thighs, heels sinking down towards the earth, shoulders away from your ears. Turn your biceps isometrically towards one another. Inhale, lift your right leg high, bend at the knee and open your hip. Maybe rotate your ankle. You might hear a snap, crackle, pop as I just did if you've been sitting for a while or sedentary. And release your right leg back down. Same thing on the left side. Raise your left leg high. Bend at the knee. Open through the hip. Rotate your ankle. One way, rotate at the other. And release back down. Look up towards your hands. Step, hop, or jump up towards the front of your mat. Forward fold. And then inhale, arms up. Hands come down into prayer. So from here, we're going to do 2 really quick hip openers, which are also standing balancing poses. So we're going to have a little fun. Give yourself permission to fall. I'll probably fall out of the pose at some point. Come right back into it. This is where the drishti becomes very important. So finding a focal point. When the mind is still, when the gaze is still, the mind is still. So stand at the top of your mat, feet hip width apart and parallel. Soften the bend in your knees. We're going to move into a modified chair. So take your left leg, place your left ankle over your right thigh, kind of like we did in supine pigeon, hands into a wide prayer. Start to sink down into one-legged chair. You'll feel a great stretch through your hip, and you're also focusing on balancing here. Bring your weight back to your right heel. Lift your chest. Relax your shoulders back and down. Sink a little lower if you're able to. This is also a big thigh burner here. You're really working that right thigh. Hold here for 2 more breaths. And then slowly start to come up without touching your left foot down. Bend your left knee. Bring your left foot back behind you. Take hold of the instep of your foot and draw your knees together. Pull your navel in and up. Relax your shoulders back and down. Right arm goes up overhead and start to sink forward into a dancer's pose. So reaching your right arm out in front of you, pressing your left foot back into your left hand. Finding your focal point, your drishti. If you fall out of it, come right back in. Whew. 2 more breaths. Slowly and with control, come back up and release. Release any thoughts about how you did or didn't do. If you fell out of it, no worries. We have a second side to do here. So this time take your right ankle, cross it over your left thigh, hands in prayer, sit back into one-legged tree pose. Utkatasana. Lift your chest, roll your shoulders back and down. Find your drishti, your focal point. Drop your weight back towards the heel of your left foot. Sink lower if you can. Pull in your abs. 2 more breaths here. Slowly come back up. Bend your right knee. Right foot goes behind. Take hold of the instep of your right foot. Draw your knees together, left arm up overhead. Really lengthen through the crown of your head and then start to lean forward into dancer's pose. You may notice one side is easier than the other. You may be able to go further one side versus the other. That's completely okay and normal. Woo, see? Fall out of it. Come right back into it. It's a great hip opener. It's also a wonderful heart opener with your chest lifting, your back arching. Slowly release. And release your hands down. Shake your legs out. Come back down to the mat, and we're going to finish with some ab work here. So bring the soles of your feet together, lay back all the way onto your mat, Supta Baddha Konasana. And then if you have a weight or some light, maybe water bottle available, you can use something. Otherwise, just place your hands straight out up towards the sky and just start to lift your head, neck, and shoulder off the mat. Start to pulse up, up, up. So not only are you stretching through your hips with your legs in this position, but you're also engaging your abdominals with each pulse up. Looking towards the ceiling, really bend from your waist. Think about lifting up versus forward. Let's do 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release back down. And we'll finish with a little happy baby. So take hold of either the insteps or the outside of your feet. Draw your knees in towards your shoulders. Maybe even rock from side to side, just like a happy baby. I know this is an incredibly awkward pose, but it's wonderful for stretching your hips. And over time, you'll get used to doing this in front of other people in yoga classes. Breathe deeply into it. And slowly release. Thank you for joining me today. I hope your hips are happy. Namaste.